trust? Do we trust Bethesda anymore to make a quality release? I'm talking about Bethesda Game Studios. The one that did that. And that's... Oh, and you remember that? And this period of gaming has seen some of the worst releases in gaming history. More and more games release in a state that is practically pre-alphas, grandsons, delta, and juniors. Bethesda in the past coming years has not released a game in a good state. Even Skyrim, one of their most beloved games, was released with tons of bugs. People see that as a charm, but game after game of bugs, that charm, it's gonna wear off. They even released a mobile game with bugs, Blades. I know you don't remember that. I know you don't. I don't even know how I remember that, okay? I'm not saying that they can't fix this problem of releasing game with bugs, but we have no reason to believe that they're going to release a game in a good state. Even everyone's favorite Fallout game, Fallout 76, released with tons of bugs and no charm at all. It's fine, I guess. Nothing that's reinventing the wheel, and to be honest, they don't have to. But this gameplay looks mediocre at best. No real fun factor here. I know they showed the gravity thing at the end, but if they were confident in it, then why wasn't that one of the main parts of the gameplay? I'll tell you why. Because it's just a random thing you can use sometimes, and that part of the gameplay isn't that cool or good. They spent 20 minutes telling me about how they have pistols and shotguns in the game. Ooh, wow. Also, many forms of sci-fi media use that exact same gravity ability. It's not special. Mass Effect and Dead Space both use something similar to this. I'm not saying it can't be improved upon, but this is not a new or novel idea. But if they showed why it was fun to use, then I would be excited. But they didn't, meaning it's probably just as bland as the rest of the gameplay. If this type of game wasn't already made 7 years ago, this might have been interesting. And I'm not saying that you can't take a similar archetype of a game and try to make it your own, but this game doesn't evolve that formula far enough to make it seem like a big step forward. When I say this is a No Man's Sky 1.5 minus 0.5, I mean that it adds some new things and then takes away some others. A 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of situation. I'm not a No Man's Sky meat rider. I played the game for a couple hours and it's cool. Not for me. No Man's Sky does have varied worlds and species and friends you can play with. Starfield does say varied worlds, but it takes out the whole friend dynamic. I know No Man's Sky didn't release with all of these features, but it's still in the game now, so I'm gonna say it's so. Starfield does have some nice detail touches with the dialogue before entering a planet and stuff on the ship with the crew. These details are really nice, appreciated, but the crew thing was perfected in Mass Effect over 10 years ago. And I can't even have sex with anything here that's blue or can't breathe oxygen or is half android or is trying to kill me or whatever. Or at least not that I know of. Also, No Man's Sky does have intellectual life that aren't humans. And from what we know, Starfield does not. I will talk about this more later, but I think not having intellectual aliens can be a big misstep, but doesn't necessarily hinder the story or lore if there is other interesting things going on. As I said before, this game is taking place in a time where the humans haven't found any other intellectual life, but have no problems with traveling from world to world in like a, intergalactic type of way. We're just humans in space. And what's in space? Materials. And other humans. This to me does not create enough variety or conflict in a setting such as space. Because then I want to ask, why is this in space? This idea works with humans finding new islands. 1,000 islands, in fact. And we're all getting materials from them. And I guess infighting. I don't know. This is just not interesting. On the claim of varied worlds, they sure did not show any. Varied does not mean different colored grass. Also, with this setting, we could have planets with aliens, all gooey and slimy, called Gazorp Gazorp, sentient robots that talk like C3PO, and they have their own robot problems with other robots that are copper, because copper robots hate silver robots. I'm not saying this should happen verbatim, but creative ideas with different species and problems should exist in a 1,000 planet based space RPG. Look, I don't think Spider Crab Red and Spider Crab Blue attacking me are interesting things to happen on a random planet with different colored sand. This world looks empty. Some people may say this is a good thing. But the reason this works in some games like Death Stranding is because there is an intricate world for the backdrop of the adventure. Death Stranding has such a weird and obtuse world that exploring it can be exciting even though there is a lot of emptiness. I've seen people say that they were happy that there was no aliens or other species. I have no clue why this would be a good choice in a lore-heavy, creative storytelling space game. Not only that, but these humans are boring. In both Skyrim and Fallout, they have unique ways of making humans different. In Skyrim, it actually is different species, but with Fallout, it's humans who are affected differently by the radioactivity. Both use unique designs that give these species interesting looks and lore, which could have been done with aliens or something similar, but what we are getting is a snooze fest of people in space. Normal ass people, mundane ass people, nobody you want to talk to. I would not be friends with one of these fucking people in space, and you wouldn't want to be either. They're fucking snooze balls, snooze fest. Huh? This is going to be a short section because they have no faith or interest in this story at all. They tried to reel in the viewer by showing us that the protagonist finds a floating rock. You know what that reminds me of? Like, I don't know, everything else in fucking space? You know what there's a lot of in space? Floating fucking rocks. I understand it puts itself back together, and this is what I would guess is hints to something greater in this universe, I hope. But they just showed me a rock float and then get close with another rock. What type of story is that? I also saw the factions. But once again, why are these interesting in space? Oh, these people think they own this place, and these people think they don't. And these people want chaos, and these people want peace. These are possibly the most uninteresting factions they could have thought of. And that's because these people got nothing else better to do. What are they gonna do, mine rocks? No. This story is gonna be like the terms and conditions of lore, and a potentially good story 100 to 200 years later in this timeline. At the end of the day, I know why they made this game. It's not because they had a really well-made world they wanted to build with unique places and characters. It's not because they had amazing ideas and concepts of what different planets could look like. It's also not because they think they can push the boundaries of gaming as a whole. It's because they had the idea, hey, we should make a game with a whole bunch of planets you can go to. That's it. That's where the idea starts, and that's where it ends. They said they had this idea about 25 years ago, and that's cool. But that doesn't justify this being an idea you should develop. They could have crafted this to make it an interesting one, but there's nothing here of substance. Just 1,000 most likely boring worlds with different shades of grass and 3 types of spider crabs. If I had the idea of making a space game with a whole bunch of planets you can go to, there has to be a reason that the player wants to go explore those planets, not just mine materials. It's sad that this idea has been done so recently with No Man's Sky when they've probably been thinking about this for the past 25 years, but No Man's Sky is a survival game, and it makes sense like that. But a game with all of these worlds and lackluster story and mediocre gameplay doesn't seem like one world I want to be in, and let alone 1,000. I know this was some harsh criticism, but if you didn't like what I said, then you can suck on my space ball.